cramping. So when bodybuilders would get on stage in an ultra dehydrated state for the stage presentation, which is not necessarily a healthy state, if they mess up their, how they're losing the water, oftentimes they deplete magnesium to a level where they get cramps, and they're brutal cramps, like literally you're in seizure. Well, it turns out the reason for that is what you mentioned earlier, is magnesium. It is the relaxation mineral, and it is, if you contract the muscle, there's your electrolyte channels, your sodium, potassium, calcium channels and stuff. But magnesium is what requires your opposing muscle, the antagonist muscle group, to relax. Insufficient magnesium levels, that cramps. Most people would experience that like in their hamstring. They get I got a cramp in my hamstring. And pretty much everybody has probably been in a dehydrated state where they cramped. It's not just the dehydration element, which is a big issue for a lot of people are underhydrated. The secondary element is a disbalance in their calcium and magnesium ratios. Too much calcium, not enough magnesium. Magnesium's the control, and they cramp. PMS and associated all sorts of pain-related issues due to spasms of some sort, which is basically whether that's an internal muscle or whether that's an external muscle, it's a contraction of the tissue where it is not responding because it's locked up.
Right.
And so a cramp that you get is not necessarily like a bicep. It's an internal cramping of the tissues because the balance between your minerals is off. And in North America, particularly, regardless of how healthy your diet is, we can't get sufficient amounts of magnesium. There's also, if you are subjected to high levels of EMF pollution, which we are at an increasing level, it seems that there's an increased requirements. And then the third competing factor is that we tend to have diets high in calcium and low in magnesium, because we all heard calcium's, for strong bones, which is another issue that women have to deal with as their hormonal cascade starts to crash. One of the downstream effects of that is the loss of muscle mass and the loss of bone mass that leads to osteoporosis. So now the trend for females who want to live and look in their fullest and best is several fold. One, got to build muscle, right? Muscle, which was avoided by women for a long time. You're not going to get huge like a bodybuilder. Forget it. Building muscle is not that easy. But strength training regularly is a real big requirement for that health aspect. The other element is getting sufficient amounts of protein, particularly early in the day. There's a big trend out there. They're 50 grams in the morning, 50 grams in the afternoon, whatever, for satiation, but also to provide enough amino acid pools that you don't start draining from your muscle tissue. Because if you don't have enough protein, or actually amino acids from protein, it's a misnomer. You don't need protein. You need the amino acids, which is a digestive process. Those amino acids, by providing sufficient amounts, that maintains your muscle mass, and that muscle mass maintains your bone mass. But even if you're doing all that and you don't have magnesium in there, your calcium magnesium ratio is off, and they operate in a 2-to-1 ratio. So what happens is calcium starts to re-regulate by dumping out of the body and accelerating the bone mass. And the easiest way to monitor this for ladies that want to watch as they go through, I would recommend, even before you hit, you hit those menopausal or premenopausal elements, go get a DEXA scan. And a DEXA scan is kind of the gold standard for looking at your body fat to lean body mass ratios. But it also will give you a scan of your bone mass and where it's distributed. And I monitor that as much as I watch my muscle mass and my body fat percentage. And it becomes very, very critical, because you want to catch preemptively before you get into that bone loss area, which has all sort of detrimental aspects, because your bones produce all of the stem cells and hemoglobin and all these things that make you healthy and functional and vibrant and youthful and energetic and feeling your best, and ability to recover is coming out of the bones. It's not just hard tissue. This is a living organism that produces a whole host of things. And magnesium is, in my opinion, more important to the North American consumer than calcium, simply because we don't get enough of it in our